Hi guys, welcome to the Women Unlimited podcast. Our guest today is Dr. Glory Edozien.
Dr. Glory Edozien helps board-ready women build visibility on LinkedIn so they can get the recognition they deserve, access to board roles, global speaking opportunities, and position themselves as sought-after experts and thought leaders. She has coached top female executives across multiple sectors and countries to grow their professional visibility and credibility. Her clients have become non-executive directors, been featured on key media channels, and used LinkedIn to unlock top-tier opportunities. She was named a LinkedIn Top Voice for Africa and one of the top 50 global thought leaders and influencers on Careers by Thinkers 360. Her work has been featured in Genevieve Magazine, Guardian Woman, Guardian Life, Arise News Africa, and she's a global advisor for women entrepreneurs for the Atlantic Council.
Visibility is the missing link to leadership opportunities. Sometimes when I talk to career women and I say, okay, what's your impact on the organization? They're not clear, they don't know, but they're going to work every day. They're working very hard, but attribute this work that you're doing to organizational impact. And all of a sudden, people are stuck.
Can you give a sort of like practical example of a skill and how to sort of like articulate that?
My last job before I became an entrepreneur, I took over from this lady who was excellent at sort of the sciencey part of things. She understood all the chemical, whatever. I wasn't good at that. So I really felt like I was walking into a role with really bigger shoes than I had feet for. Now I know I'm great at networking, I'm great at stakeholder management, and I'm great at business development. And the key success factor on this role was to win clients. So before, this other lady would go and impress them with her science skills. But what I was doing was identifying the key stakeholders, building rapport and relationship with them, and that helped to build trust within the organization and win us key deals. When I didn't know who the key stakeholder was, I would meet somebody in the organization who I knew who could do an intro for me. And then I would further, I would build that relationship. If I didn't know what I was good at, I would have spent my time trying to understand science.
Hi, Glory.
Hello, hi, I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest, because when I was thinking about this whole Women Unlimited thing, my thought process was basically there are a lot of, because obviously Lara Unlimited is a workplace drama and focuses on Lara's career in oil and gas. But in sort of thinking about how I wanted to roll it out, I was like, it would be interesting to start conversations around female intrapreneurs. So women who are killing it in corporate, because I find that there are not enough resources for intrapreneurs. There's so much for entrepreneurs. We're always talking about, entrepreneurship and tools, but no one really speaks a lot about the tools that entrepreneurs need to succeed. When I was thinking about this, like, you were one of the first people that I thought about, because I thought, oh my God, Glory tackles like these issues and she helps women to speak up and be more visible on LinkedIn and think through what their career strategies are and things like that. So I thought you'd be an amazing person to speak to. So thank you so much for coming on board.
I'm super excited, really excited. Congratulations on the series and everything that you've been doing. You are just, you are such an inspiration and definitely a beacon of light that all of us are looking up to.
Oh my God, thank you.
So I'm excited to be here and to delve deep into the questions. So excited.
So I want to start by asking, how important is visibility in career growth, and what are the practical ways for women to sort of like build that within a corporate organization?
I think visibility is very important to career growth, but visibility gets a bad rap, right? We've been socialized to think empty barrels are the ones that make the most noise. Put your head down and work hard. Every female conference you go to, you say women must work 10 times as hard, right? But people don't understand that visibility is strategy, because if you work really, really hard, but nobody knows that you are the one that did the work, the opportunities that should come based on your expertise will be limited. So I think visibility is the missing link to leadership opportunities. And in terms of practical ways people can start to build visibility, the first thing I say is understand your skills, know your skills. I think visibility, a lot of people think visibility is an external sport. It's actually internal. Because the minute you are able to understand your skills,
like what you're good at,
your expertise, and how you deliver differently from others, it's almost like you can't shut up. It's almost like, because you see that you are a valuable team player, a valuable leader, and you want to help, you want to make impact. So the first thing I say to people is, see yourself, understand your skills, and then start thinking strategically. Who needs to know about this in your organization, right? Who needs to know about this externally? Sometimes you have to build external visibility before people internally would take you seriously, you know? But yeah, so those are some of the things that I think, some of the ways I think you can start to build visibility. Understand who you are, how you deliver work. You know, sometimes when I talk to career women and I say, okay, what's your impact in the organization? They're not clear. They're not clear. They don't know, but they're going to work every day. They're working very hard, but attribute this work that you're doing to organizational impact. And all of a sudden, people are stuck, right? And they will mention their responsibilities. I'm responsible for. No.
So what would you say is the first step in learning to speak confidently about your contributions?
So I think the first step is, and let's make this practical, right?
Yeah.
Do an audit of your skills. Understand how you deliver, how you show up. So when you understand that, then you are able to have the key conversations. Then you now know who needs to know about you. So I would say that's the first step.
So can you give a practical example? Like, you know how sometimes we talk about these things and it feels very like theoretical. Can you give a sort of like practical example of a skill and how to sort of like articulate that?
Amazing. So I remember my last job before I became an entrepreneur. I took over from this lady who was an environmental management company. And so we used to do environmental audits. I took over from this lady who was excellent at sort of the sciencey part of things. She understood all the chemical, whatever. I wasn't good at that when I took over the role. So I really felt like I was walking into a role with really bigger shoes than I had feet for. So what I did was say, okay, how am I going to succeed at this role? Now I know I'm great at networking, I'm great at stakeholder management, and I'm great at business development. And the key success factor on this role was to win clients. That's essentially it. So what I did, so before, this other lady would go and impress them with her science skills. But what I was doing was identifying the key stakeholders, building rapport and relationship with them, and that helped to build trust within the organization and win us key deals. When I didn't know who the key stakeholder was, I would meet somebody in the organization who I knew who could do an intro for me. And then I would I would build that relationship. So those were the key things. So if I didn't know what I was good at, I would have spent my time trying to understand science. Right? Which isn't my major.
And this is such a big thing, because I feel like sometimes we try to, it's like we focus so much on what we're not, as opposed to focusing on what we are, right? So I think that's a very like key like point. I love that. Let's talk promotions. Like, what do you think that women should be doing, like before a promotion cycle comes along, to make themselves like obvious candidates for the role?
So I think if you're waiting for the promotion cycle, you are late. So let me just be honest. Like if it's when the promotion cycle is coming, when the role is being advertised, that you are now starting, you are late to the party. Trust me, they already have somebody for that promotion. Maybe they are just filling in the blank cards. But what I would say is, right from time, understand, once you have a role, understand what is the next level goal for me. What do I need to demonstrate in order to get that role? Who do I need to be speaking to? And then, so for example, if you know that, okay, it's the GMD that needs to see me, then what cross-functional projects can I volunteer on, or committees can I be on to be visible to these players? So it's all about thinking long-term and strategically. Who do I need to start talking to now? Right? What brag file or brag sheet do I need to have? How do I show up? What are the opportunities to show up? So if the GMD is in a meeting and then you are there. That's not the meeting you are quiet. That's the meeting where you're giving examples of the work that you've done and the insights.
But you know, in a competitive work environment, sometimes differentiating yourself or having a brag sheet can appear like you're doing self-promotion, and it can rub people off the wrong way. And I find, especially for women, right, it's like a lot of women struggle with that. They struggle with talking about themselves. They struggle with, oh my God, how am I going to look like to other people if I'm saying I did this and I did that? So do you want to give like a practical example of like a brag sheet, and how do you do this self-promotion on LinkedIn, in person, without feeling like you're rubbing people off the wrong way? Or should you even care if you're rubbing people?
Well, it's a mixture of the two. If I'm honest, it's a mixture of the two. So the first thing I would say, right, is understand, you know, there's a difference between self-promotion and leadership communication, right? So, and I think many times we mistake the two, right? So self-promotion is like eye service and all of that. But leadership communication is actually understanding, again, what we said at the start, where I deliver the most value and communicating that. So a practical thing now, you are in, let's use this GMD, for example, right? And I'm in the room with him and they're asking a question about, okay, how can we improve our customer acquisition strategy? Instead of saying, oh, in my team, we brought in 100 customers or whatever, say, oh, these are the insights we learned from the last project where we're able to deliver 50% on our budget. You know, we learned that customers want this, we learned. You haven't said, I did this, I did this. You've shown what you know. And I think that's the missing thing. So a lot of times people will go on LinkedIn, for example, and they will say, oh, I'm happy to announce. I'm excited to announce. You know, we've raised this, we've done this. All well and good for you. But the way you start to stand out is when you talk about your insights. And that's where thought leadership comes in.
I love that. I really like that. So speaking of LinkedIn, what are the best ways for women to sort of like use LinkedIn in their professional careers? Because I know you're a LinkedIn superstar. Like, you've helped me even like rewrite my page and all of that. And I feel like it's something that a lot of people still kind of like struggle with, like in terms of like using LinkedIn regularly. I see a lot of opportunity there because there's so many like job opportunities that come through LinkedIn, or just, I guess, opportunities in general. So how do you think that women can use LinkedIn more effectively to be successful in their careers?
How long is this podcast? You know, so I mean, I think for LinkedIn, the mistake people make, so, you know, people say, oh, jobs and things, but LinkedIn content is seen 15 times more than job postings.
Oh, wow.
So what does that mean? It means that LinkedIn becomes a great way to stay top of mind to people. So if you're on LinkedIn and you're not sharing content, you're really, I mean, yes. Somebody told me this analogy the other day, and I believe it's true, although she was talking about a different platform. But LinkedIn is a great place to hide a dead body, right? Because you can be there and nobody knows you are there, literally. So for LinkedIn, it's a trifecta. The first is your profile. Make sure you have a profile that's optimized. That, by optimized, I mean that has your key skills. So if you want mergers and acquisitions, digital transformation, change management, you know, it will surprise you how many people will talk about their careers, but the things that are major in their careers not on their LinkedIn profile. The next thing is your network. Who knows about you? And this is not where, oh yes, best friends are great, but who is the equivalent of you in Southeast Asia? Who is the equivalent of you in Russia? Who is the equivalent of you in Canada? Start to build those networks and have conversations. The mistake a lot of people make is that they don't understand that the world is looking for African voices and African perspectives. So if you are not on a global platform sharing your experience from Africa, I mean, I don't know where else you want to be. And then the next part is content. And this is not content that is showy or that is, you know, there's a lot of content now on LinkedIn. But it's content that demonstrates expertise, that talks about your insights, that is thought leadership driven, and is consistent. that's
You
important.
always talk a lot about storytelling and how powerful it is. How do you think that professionals can use storytelling to basically like talk about their achievements in a compelling way?
So storytelling for me is really important because it's a way of humanizing, your expertise. So for me, what I always tell my clients is think about the questions your clients ask you and then tell stories around these things, right? That is where you become memorable. So for example, you attended your first board meeting and then you come out and you take a group picture, first board meeting for X and Y company.
No one cares. Yeah.
But if you come out and say, 5 ESG principles boards in Africa must be considering today. And then you talk about today at our board meeting, we really tackled ESG principles and what it means for organizations in the future in Africa. Memorable.
I love that. Like, I love the fact that like you have serious practical examples like for all of this stuff. Like, you guys should just thank me, okay? It's very easy as a woman, right? You start working. I think, maybe let me not say as a woman, I think for anyone, you start working in a job, right? And you've been there for a number of years and it gets to a point where like, it's now just tasks and daily responsibilities and it feels like you're a cog in a wheel. So for women who are maybe like in middle management that feel stuck, what would you say the key shifts are that they have to make to move to the next level?
I think the first thing is to understand where you want to go next, right? So I remember one of my clients, she had been in mid-level management and when she came to me, she said, look, I'm tired. I want to enter the C-suite. And so one of the things we did was say, okay, first of all, you know where you want to go next. Yeah. So what experience do you have now that is valuable for your next level move? And she had been in marketing and sales for the longest time. And everybody's that's a skill that is quite, everybody has been in marketing and so that's a skill that's quite common. So we started doing some research into her expertise. And this is what we're saying earlier about grounding what you are good at, right? And we found out that her expertise is really around go-to-market strategies for emerging economies. Now, we communicated this on LinkedIn. And today, she is a country director for a multinational in the country.
That's amazing.
And that's such a practical example of somebody who was in mid-level management, made a decision to say, okay, I'm done here. This is my next level move. Going back and say, what is the expertise that I have that is relevant for my next level move? Communicating that powerfully and getting the opportunity.
And I think a lot of what I'm getting from you is almost like you need to niche down. So it's great to be able to say, oh, I work in marketing and I do X, Y, Z and this is how much I've brought in. But it's also important to figure out, like, even within marketing, like, what specifically am I good at? Like, what, marketing problems do I specifically, like, help to solve? And articulating that. I think it's very interesting. So how would you say that, like, building a personal brand can translate to real, like, career opportunities?
So building a personal brand, it's very important because it's what you're known for that will bring the opportunities that you desire. For me, what I think the key steps for building a personal brand are around, first of all, deciding, and that's where you were talking about niching down, clarity and communication, asking yourself, what do I want to be known for? Right? What do I want to be known for? What problem do I want people to be discussing? And my name comes up as a solution.
I love
that. That is the key, right? And then who needs to know about me? Because trust me, a lot of opportunities that we want at a certain level, they're not advertised, right? So you want to be speaking to the people. And there's a lot of things now about, do the work in silence and, come out all of a sudden. How are you coming out all of a sudden if nobody knows that you're doing the work, Understand who the key strategic stakeholders are for your career growth. Make sure you're communicating with them what you want. So, one of the things I say over Christmas is a great time to strategically network because you're meeting with everybody who's in a good mood. Tell people what you need for the next year and make sure that you now follow up in the new year and continue doing so. I think it's very important. And then 3, how are you showing up? So that, I mean, I do this exercise with clients all the time. Let's Google you. Would you give you an opportunity based on what is on Google?
Yeah. I remember the first time when I was joining the House of Tara board. I was in my 20s, and what they said, send a profile, right? And the person, like within, because they wanted to, I think, read out profiles in the first board meeting. And you can imagine it was a board meeting that had people like Ibukwan Woshika, Nimi Akinkugbe, Osai Alile, like, and you know, I was like, okay, I'll send my profile, but maybe I didn't send this on time. So someone in the office had gone and like done a Google search to basically like look for me. And
I know where the story is going.
What was coming up was, hey babe, like it was my tweets, like, hey babe, Nikki, are we going out tonight? And I was like, huh? Like, is this what like comes up like when when I'm Googled? Obviously I was really young, and the concept of like social media was still relatively, you know, new, but I found that it was the first time that I started thinking, you better really figure out like how you're showing up, you know, online. So for the most part, you can't really control a lot of it, but I think that you have to be intentional about how you're showing up online. When people Google you, what are they going to see? Like, are they going to see only like maybe like your frivolous social pursuits, or are they going to see like your career, like accomplishments? And it was the first time I actually really started thinking about that. So how would you say that, especially with not just like, you know, it's showing up in person is one thing, but how you show up online. So even outside of LinkedIn, on social media in general, what are the things that you think that women need to be doing on a day-to-day basis to basically show up better?
So I think the first thing is have your collaterals ready, right? A lot of people wait until they call them, oh, there's this board opportunity, please send your CV, and then they quickly are rushing to create one. And that's where, you know, you miss out a lot of important things. So have those things ready so you have them to go. Now, online, first of all, you want to consider, what do I want to be known for, and what will be important to the people who are searching for me? What platforms do I need to have appeared on to demonstrate credibility? So beyond LinkedIn, so whether it's PR, so maybe, okay, if I'm trying to target senior business leaders in Nigeria, maybe I want to have been featured on, you know, Business Day, those types of platforms. If I'm a woman leader, maybe I want to have been featured on her network or something like that, you know, those types of platforms. So first of all, think about what is credible to the people that I need to that I'm trying to attract. Then also think about news platforms as well. So your Arese TV, your CNBC Africa. Then think Africa-wide, right? So we've done local, do Africa-wide, and then do international. I think if you follow those strategic steps, right, you can then start to build a real digital persona online.
I love that. So what are some red flags that a person isn't articulating their value like properly, like whether in interviews, meetings?
I think one of the red flags, and this happened to me personally, I went for an alumni cocktail thing, and there was this dean from my previous university that came. And I went up to him and he was asking me what I do now. So my background, real estate and planning, and then I transitioned into coaching and all. So I started telling him about my coaching, and his eyes were glazing over. Like, you know, and I was like, you know, at first, because I'm not used to that. So I was a bit confused, and I was like, okay, what's going on? And then I realized, I'm giving sand to somebody from, you know, it didn't make sense. So quickly, I shifted and started talking about mainstreaming policy work that I had done. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting.
So know your audience.
Know your audience. Really, really important. So red flag is if people, when you're talking, people are glazing over. It could mean, you know, you are giving wine to people who don't take alcohol, that type of stuff. Or another red flag could be if you constantly find it really difficult to speak up in meetings. You find it really difficult to speak up in meetings. If I ask you now, okay, in fact, 3 questions. This happened to my friend Jade. Do you attend events as a speaker? If your answer is no, it's a red flag. Does anybody outside of your organization who is a high-level influencer know about you and give a reference for you? And must be outside of your organization. If your answer is no, that's also a red flag, right? Do you have any thought leadership articles that clearly articulate your expertise? If the answer is no, that's a red flag.
That's really interesting. So Glory, we're going to switch to some Lara Unlimited stuff right now. And you know what's so interesting? Glory is featured in season 2 of The Smart Money Woman. So it's an extra honor to have you on the podcast because you are Lara's career coach in The Smart Money Woman season 2. And I was like, oh my God, like she's going through this thing where she's lost her job and she has to basically try to figure out like what her next move is. And I thought what Glory does, I don't feel is mainstream enough. And I guess it was an opportunity to spotlight the work that you do, but also like an opportunity to sort of show practical ways that women who are on a certain career path can get unstuck or sort of like navigate changes like in their career. In Lara Unlimited, she's in a bind.
She's in an unlimited mess.
Yes. So I want to show you a clip because it's a workplace drama.
All right.
We're focusing on her career and you know she's so results oriented. So this job that you found for her, right? She's now up for a promotion and she doesn't get it.
Oh dear.
So I'm going to show you her reaction. And I want you to basically like critique it. I'm asking every guest to like watch this part and tell me their thoughts.
Okay, so please help me understand. Even though in the last year, I brought in deals that have netted this company over $20 million. Frank, who has brought in nothing, zilch, zero, gets the promotion. Make that make sense.
Lara, no need to get emotional over this. We've spoken about this. Your promotion will come.
This is bullshit.
I beg your pardon?
I said this is bullshit.
I work harder than Frank and my results speak for themselves. What is my business if he has a battalion of babes to take care of?
If this was a meritocratic organization, I wouldn't even need to be pointing it out.
Lara, let's talk about this in my office. Please?
Well, I think this meltdown speaks volumes as to why you weren't picked for the role in the first place.
If this is a meltdown, then let's blow this baby up, shall we? Here are the facts. Since I started working here, I've been made to feel bad for my ambitions, while the company enjoys the contributions made possible by said ambitions. You treat me like a money-hungry ingrate when I negotiate for more pay, as if I'm not allowed to be fairly compensated for the value that I create.
You are embarrassing yourself.
I wasn't finished! Competent employees like Jamie are made to shoulder the brunt of the work, while incompetent ones like Chike do absolutely nothing and get paid more. Make that make sense. I take solace in the fact that even if you decide to fire me today, your P&L will definitely feel the impact of my absence. But till then, I hope you can take this as a learning curve and use it as an opportunity to treat your staff better. Then get out of my...
So obviously, this is such an extreme like reaction, but in writing it, I really wanted like to use Lara to capture the thing that I feel like every Nigerian employee would want to say but can't say. So obviously it's very, you know, extreme, but I want your thoughts on how she approached it, what you think the consequences would be like in a situation like that if you got that riled up like in a meeting.
Oh dear. First of all, brilliant acting. Brilliant. I felt like I was in the room and watching her, and I felt I felt every word. Especially, I don't know the guy that was speaking, whether he's a manager or HR or whoever he is. For me, I think, you know, there's the stereotype that women are emotional. And what happens whether it's subconsciously in the workplace is that they tend to put us in a box and watch us explode.
Yeah.
And so I feel like she's played into their hands. Yes, right? Usually these are the things that you quickly go to the bathroom, cry, and then clean your face or call your best friend and you say, not necessarily what you would say in a meeting. Not that I'm sure this has happened in some places. So here's the thing. The fact that she was just, from what I watched, it seemed like she was just hearing that she didn't get the promotion at that meeting. Also shows that there's some power dynamic that she's not involved in. Because if she was doing things, if she had a few players in the game, she would have known before she entered that meeting that she didn't get it. Because there's always a meeting before the meeting. So first of all, she's missing that political strategy. 2, she cared a lot. And this happens when you have built everything inside an organization and you haven't built your personal brand. Because for some people, before they will do this to them, they will know that, one, they're walking out of here tomorrow. And when they walk out of here tomorrow, they're not coming back, right? And this is something that happens a lot to executives where you keep working hard, you're working hard, and you're not seeing the results. And then the third part is saying to yourself, okay, yes, there might be culture issues here that we need to deal with in the organization, but how have I contributed to this? Have I really been just slaving away without really understanding the strategy here? And
so do you find that women who don't, sorry to cut you short. Okay, so do you find that women, especially who don't work on their personal brands within an organization or work on how they're looked at externally, do you think that no matter how hard you work within the organization, they can tend to take you for granted because they feel like, where are you going?
It can happen, for sure. It can for sure happen, especially when you don't have a sponsor. Someone who is going to speak for you in rooms that you don't have access to. Somebody that would have been at that meeting and say, you dare not do that to Lara. What are you saying? After all these things that she's saying, the person would have said this in the meeting. Someone that brought $20 million and somebody that did this, blah, 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 blah. And then that person would have come to tell Lara, you've missed out, but I don't want you to go in there and blow up. We'll guess it next year.
Yeah, I like that.
So you see, so Lara herself hasn't done the work to cover herself and to be strategic.
So be strategic by building allies within the company. So it's like she's been working in a silo, thinking that her hard work alone would get her where she wants to go. And I find that a lot of people, think that they're like, oh, if I put my head down and I just do the work, my work will speak for itself. But there's that, but then there's also making sure that like your personal brand is strong enough that you're invaluable.
Exactly, that you are invaluable both to the organization and outside the organization. So, because sometimes, these dynamics, the truth about it, they can be bigger than us, right? No matter how well we are playing the game. Yeah. But you should also have, your ace up your sleeve. So that when the rubber is too much, the heat is too much, you're like, look, I think I've done enough here. Let me go and cash my checks in other places.
I love it. I'd like to shift to an investing sort of aspect of this. Women can get caught up, especially when you're like in corporate. It's like, I'm earning a salary, I'm rising to the top, I'm getting all these benefits that come with being in corporate leadership and, earning a good, stable salary and not necessarily think about how they're building assets to protect themselves in the future. So our partners at Bamboo, they have these 3 different types of portfolios. I'm getting each guest to take a look and tell me which type of portfolio basically best represents them.
All right, let's see. Let us see. I'm conservative. I'm conservative. I'm conservative. In my mind,
you want to be more aggressive.
Yes, in my mind, and I've had conversations with people and I say, Glory, I'm missing out on opportunity. But really, the girl that is in me is like,
I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose money.
I'm conservative. I'm too conservative actually.
And I think that's fair. And I think it's important to basically like be clear about where you are and maybe see opportunities that you'd like to play in the future. Like, so maybe say 80% of my disposable income or my investable income goes to conservative things, and the other, 20% I can play around with or I can afford to risk on more aggressive things.
One of the things that I'm toying around with is, I'm speaking to my investment manager about, is some of the yield from my investment, taking a percentage of that and putting it in more aggressive assets. That's one of the things I'm thinking about. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, so even if, I have to be African and say, God forbid, God forbid, I don't, I lose it. I don't really feel that pinch as much, Yeah.
So we're building a Women Unlimited community, and one of the things that we want to do with our partners at Bamboo is offer women who invest a 20% discount on the fees, on the transaction fees.
Amazing.
As a bonus. Are there other things that you think, from dealing with professional women, what do you think would encourage them to invest in stocks, in US stocks, in Nigerian stocks, because that's what Bamboo does?
So I think there's a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of education that sort of needs to happen, and sort of awareness about some of these opportunities. There are so many career women that are still very conservative like me. And, when we hear about this, we're like, I'm not ready. Do you understand? But if there could be more sort of investment education and which is why I think Bamboo is doing a great job, but, awareness about some of these opportunities, I think that would be really, really helpful. And then, maybe Kickstarter opportunities where we can, just with low play a bit, right? Without getting our hands burned. Once we start to gain confidence, because I think it's a confidence thing, right? Once we start to gain confidence, maybe we then, move up to the big leagues at some point.
I love it. So Glory, tell me what makes you unlimited. So for me, like, this Women Unlimited podcast and community was built on the premise that women are unlimited in spite of their fears, in spite of the obstacles that they have to overcome, in spite of their own shortcomings. So like with Lara, she has anger issues, and sometimes she doesn't allow her emotional intelligence to sort of like take hold in certain situations. But outside of all of that, outside of the self-doubts, outside of fears, outside of the obstacles that we have to overcome, what makes us unlimited as women? So what would you say makes you unlimited?
I think knowing who I am makes me unlimited, right? I think for women, that process of fully embracing who you are can be a very lengthy one. But I think coming to the fullness of understanding who I am and how I show up in the world, and just claiming the opportunities that are right in front of me and being open to the possibilities that the world has, and not being afraid. I think those are the things that make me unlimited.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Glory Edozien, for all your insight on how to gain visibility in the workplace. I think that this is going to be so invaluable to a lot of women.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I had a fantastic time.
Thank you. All right.